Greetings, Culturians, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we have to talk about films that work and films don't. And recently, we had one that was probably more likely affected by the previous film than it was by the film itself. Now, from our friends over at Cosmic Book News, we're going to talk a little bit about Bone Temple and the fact that it made an early exit from theaters to VOD. So, here we go. Now, before we get started, just a quick reminder, double check you're still subscribed to the channel. And if you're not, if you see that little button red, click on it, turn it gray, have it say subscribed, and then click on the bell icon to turn on all of those notifications. Now, beyond the headline here is probably a bigger story. Something we don't get to a lot of times when we talk about a lot of this Hollywood stuff. It's the fact that the box office just didn't show up for this. Now, this will happen in something that people are trying to consider a franchise where a previous film will make the next film perform poorly. A lot of people tried to point that out with the recent underperformance of Badlands because a lot of people said, well, the previous film, which was on streaming, just wasn't that good. So it didn't make sense to send it to the theaters for what turned out to be a failure. In this case, the previous film did okay. It just wasn't beloved by the people it was supposed to be, the real fans of this particular franchise. And while a lot of people liked the concept of the Jimmies and the Jimmy Gang, they necessarily weren't showing up just for that. And if they had, they might have been a little bit more satisfied. But even I have heard some not so positive things about this, and I didn't bother to go see it. I missed the opportunity twice, and it just didn't make sense to try to make it fail a third time. But 32 days after entering the box office, this shouldn't have happened. So let's get into the story. Matt McGloin writes that Sony is sending 28 days later The Bone Temple to VOD Tuesday. That's right. That would be today, the 17th, after only 32 days in theaters. That's proof right there that theatrical run didn't go as planned. Well, no, it didn't. Neither did its performance. The sequel was made just $56.6 million worldwide, including only $25 million domestically, after opening to a very poor $12.5 million. Now, you can definitely tie the director to some controversy. You can definitely tie some performance issues to that. People are just tired of, the idea that maybe something is woke because the people that are making the woke or have been forcing the woke have been taken out. I'm not sure if that's necessarily the case here, but 28 years later is a far cry from its previous 28 years later, which hit over 151 million. And that's an awful lot of money. I mean, when you think about it, these horror films don't cost a lot. They're usually well conceived by the creators, and they are designed to hit at points in the box office where they'll be the most effective and make the most amount of money. But in this case, maybe that wasn't true. A June release, which is when this dropped, and in contrast, these numbers are definitely not something to brag about. But Bone Temple, well, the drop-off was massive. After the first weekend, which was dismal, it got a little bit sideways, to say the least. $100 million loss, that's right. We're looking at they spent too much on this film kind of a conversation. Bone Temple's break-even number looks to be around $157.5 million based on the budget of $63 million because, multiply times 3 and you're about there. Well, with $56.6 million worldwide, which is sad, that puts the film roughly $100 million in the hole, if you're kind. And again, these numbers are very kind. So even factoring in post-theatrical revenue, it's a brutal shortfall, even when it's going to streaming. And this seems kind of predictable to me, or maybe just to me. I don't know, but it felt like it was definitely not going to do what it needed to do because it just honestly wasn't promoted. At least it wasn't promoted well and not in the circles I was in. I saw very limited exposure for this outside of the one trailer that I saw in theaters. So they didn't do a good job there either. But studios don't rush movies to digital, which is a true statement. Thank you for that, Matt. they're not going to do it in just over a month. And if things are going great, there was no reason to. They would want to keep them around for a while. Early VOD equals underperformance is kind of the standard. In fact, Netflix CEO Ted Sarandos recently told Congress that early digital releases typically happen when films underperform because the shortened theatrical windows, is like Superman hitting VOD in 35 days, are examples of box office weakness, and traditional VOD windows still tend to sit closer to the 45-day theatrical window.
I think Warner Brothers did an exceptional job of that this year. And they did $4 billion at the box office, which is one of the reasons why this company costs so much to buy. So we want to keep that going and actually improve and build on it.
And this was kind of his argument for how Netflix wasn't going to strip away the films from the cinemas. It wasn't a very good one, but it was an argument. And the Bone Temple hitting VOD after 32 days is doing even worse than Superman. And I think that's not just arguable, it's provable. And as the story here says, that speaks volumes. Audience rejection was something that happens regularly, especially in franchises like these. And the first film already showed signs of divisions among audiences. In fact, I talked about that after seeing the last film. Like, this was kind of a mess and not really my favorite of the series. I also questioned at that time whether a follow-up was a good idea, and I also questioned whether or not Nia DaCosta was a good choice. Well, I think we answered almost all of those questions with this performance. And while critics scored it high, the fan reception was a lot more mixed because of the woke bait and switch storyline that people just really weren't interested in. Now, the sequel's collapse proves many moviegoers simply didn't come back because they expected more of the same. And why wouldn't they? That's just the way that Hollywood has been operating lately. So the sharp drop from 151 million worldwide for the first film to 56.6 million in Bone Temple, well, that kind of makes clear the point. Go woke, go broke, especially with something this valuable, which I have a feeling Predator was essentially the same thing. By making woke Predator that was available to stream for free if you had the service, and then making a cinematic follow-up, you were always setting yourself up for failure. And I think fans of the Alien and Predator franchises expect a steep decline going forward, especially after the FX TV product we got. Now, instead of building momentum, the franchise cratered. Yeah, that's being kind. If it was meant to launch a long-running revival, which is really what this series was supposed to do, we were supposed to have a long-ranging plan with great minds that are working on, let's see, a franchise. But if you look at the numbers, it tells a very different story. At this point, 28 years later, franchise looks finished, and that's a good thing. And I agree. I know that sounds harsh, cynical, mean. You use your adjective, whatever it is, but it's true. We have to start cutting bait whenever we get baited. We have to start getting away from things that we know are obviously going to be politically compromised. And that's been Hollywood's gambit since about 2015. A decent chunk, if not nearly everything that comes out in theaters, seems to be infected with political messaging and hectoring lecturing, which everybody is done with. So much so that I get tired of saying it in almost every single video. However, when it comes to horror, oftentimes things bounce back. And yet, I expect that this isn't coming back anytime soon. And if it does, it'll be years down the road. But hey, those are my thoughts. What are yours? As we get into about the 10-minute point of the video, let me know your thoughts in the comments section down below. Did you see Bone Temple? Did you see the previous 28 Years Later film? Did you have lowered expectations because of the relationship between the two films and because you knew who the obvious director of this film was and what kind of other products they've put forth in the past? I'm keenly interested in what you have to say because while I didn't see the film, I didn't see it for those specific reasons. Did you have different ones? As I said, let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. And as always, be sure to take care of yourself, take care of others, and until next time, see ya. Just probably not at another 28 anything film anytime soon.